Yeah. In fact, I almost thought about wearing a tie times and how much he hated ties. But Wally was born on November 16, 1965, the son of an Iowa farm girl and a United States Marine with an alcohol problem. With the father of the Marine Corps, we moved a lot. When my father was stationed overseas, we moved back to Lamont and lived with either my grandparents or rent a house at home was available. When my father was in the station stateside, we'd pack up and move to wherever he was stationed. We've been back and forth across this country twice in my car, and it's quite an experience. When my father was forced into retirement after 21 years in the Marine Corps due to heart problems at the age of 39, his problems with alcohol escalated. This eventually led to our parents divorcing. At this point, Wally became extremely close to our mother. He was always there to comfort her. After all, she was left to raise 3 sons. Fortunately, she did not have to do this on her own. She had the help of my grandparents, my aunt, and the community. The three of us obtained our passion for hunting and fishing when some of the men in our small town recognized my mother's situation, and even though they had families of their own, they stepped in to teach the 3 of us how to hunt, fish, and trap. These were inspirational years for the 3 of us. During his grade school years, Wally became best friends with a kid by the name of Jeff Brecker. They were inseparable. Jeff had a scrawny little sister who was immediately attracted to Wally, not in his girlfriend-boyfriend sense, but because of his magnetism and sense of humor. She always wanted to hang out with her brother and Wally. But at this age, the rule was no girls allowed. Little did Wally know at that time he would eventually marry his best friend's sister. In 1979, while my brothers and I were visiting our father in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Wally's best friend Jeff was killed in an accident. Our mother didn't want to call us in New Hampshire for fear that she would ruin our trip with our father. When we got home, my mother broke the news to Wally. He immediately went to Jeff's family to console and comfort them. Even at an early age, Wally wanted to help people through the tough times. During Wally's high school years, he loved hunting, fishing, traveling, and naturally playing football. He despised bullies in the school and befriended the kids who were being bullied. The bullies, who also looked up to Wally, saw this, and soon after, the bullies and the bullied kids would all become friends. Wally had this magic ability to bring people together. In high school, there were many cliques of students. Wally belonged to every one of them. He especially liked the cliques that involved that included the cheerleaders. Sorry, the first 2 years of high school, Wally was an average to below average student. In his junior year, he was inspired by his football coach, Dave Bartlett. He discovered at that time exactly what he wanted to do with his life. He soon became an above-average student. I think the only thing that kept Wally from dropping out of high school the first 2 years was football and the school lunches. He'd always schmooze the lunch ladies so that they would put extra food on his tray. Couldn't keep the kid full. I have a patient in one of my clinics who worked in our junior high cafeteria. She told me a few years ago that Wally was the only student who ever asked, "If you need any help cleaning up after lunch, let me know." I think Wally did this not only because of his generosity and his willingness to help others, but I think he wanted the leftovers too. When Wally entered college at Upper Iowa University, my mother was fearful of how he would adapt. She had nothing to worry about. Wally was instantly accepted by his newfound friends. In college, Wally did anything for extra money. One day on a $5 bet, I watched him eat a live spider whole. You kids don't do that at home. Wally dated Kathy throughout college and came to idolize her. Academically, Kathy was on the ball. Wally was so concerned about his fellow teammates meeting academic qualifications so they could stay on the football team, he told them, "Listen, when there's a test, sit next to Kathy and copy her answer." Little does Kathy know that she was responsible for keeping half of Upper Iowa's football. After college, on August 10, 1991, Wally married the love of his life. They made their home here in Spring Valley. After college, in April 1995, Kathy gave birth to their first child, Kayla. She was the apple of her daddy's eye. Our mother was so proud. There was finally a girl in the family. Wally often called my mother and asked questions about babies. He was totally lost at that time. In June of 1995, our mother was diagnosed with a bile duct tumor. She underwent a major but successful surgery in the Mayo Clinic, and the doctors pretty much cured her of cancer. A month after our mother's surgery, my brothers and I received a call that our father had died suddenly in Florida. The three of us, our wives and Kaylee, all flew to Florida to attend his funeral. While we were in Florida, we received word that my mother was being airlifted back to the Mayo Clinic due to post-operative complications of internal bleeding. We all caught earlier flights home, and by the time we reached our mother's bedside, she was gone. Our father's funeral was on a Monday, and our mother's funeral was on a Friday the same week. Needless to say, this is a tough time for all of us. Throughout this whole ordeal, Wally stayed strong. He helped my brother Dan and I by telling funny stories and practical jokes he used to play on our mother. Wally showed little emotion throughout this time. When he began showing any sorrow, Dan and I would try to comfort him, but he would immediately shut off the tears and walk away saying, "I don't want to talk about it." He kept everything inside. I think in Wally's eyes, he felt he needed to be strong for the rest of us. You know, everyone grieves in their own way, and I think Wally dealt with the loss of our mother by helping others deal with their own grief. Kathy, my brother Dan, and I knew Wally was suffering from this loss. Wally never opened up to us. As I said, he felt he needed to be strong. I think the pain he carried for all these years eventually led to some of his irrational decisions in the recent past. A few weeks ago, Wally was deer hunting in his favorite spot. He sat in a tree stand. That day that we had placed there several years ago. He shot a big buck that weekend, a wall hanger is what we call it. But he was unable to find it. Last Sunday, my brother Dan and I went out planning to hunt in the morning, and later in the morning try to find the deer so that we could take the antlers off and have them mounted for coal. We searched the woods with the help of two other friends and couldn't find it after 3 hours of looking. That morning I decided that when I got out to the timber, I decided to sit in the last tree stand Wally ever sat in. Sitting in this stand, I thought to myself, if this tree stand could talk, what would it say about Wally? As I sat there that morning watching the woods wake up, it dawned on me, I know exactly what this tree stand would say about Wally. It would say that Wally respected the woods and everything that lived in it. It would tell me that whenever Wally shot a deer and tracked it to its final resting place, Wally would remove his hat, kneel next to the deer, place his right hand on the deer, bow his head and pray, asking God to take the deer's soul into heaven. And then he'd cut the deer. I thought about this all the way home that day. I thought about how I walked up to Wally's tree stand that morning and seeing it in the early morning light and how empty it looked. I began putting words together and came up with a poem. I want you all to know I've never written a poem before in my life, and I'm sure if there's any English teachers in the room today, they're going to cringe when they hear this, but it did come from the heart. The poem is titled, "The Empty Tree Stand." It goes like this. For several seasons I took your lead. I was sturdy and strong so you would succeed. For your family and friends so strong you stayed, so their pain and sorrow would go astray. You helped everyone but forgot yourself. You put your troubles upon a shelf. Now you're gone, but I'll stay strong until your son Cole comes along. He'll follow your footsteps up my rungs to my platform where brightly shines the sun.